Hi and welcome to the Bookkeepers podcast. I'm Zoe Whitman. I'm here with Jo Wood and we're joined by a panel of guests today. We're joined by Jonathan Stocks and Phoebe Muckian from the AAT and Libby Walklett from the Ethical Bookkeeper. And we're going to talk about licenses, qualifications with the AAT, and really just sort of deep dive into some of your questions. If you've got questions about being an AAT member or practice licenses, we're really here to take those. We're also really excited to announce that we've got a partnership which we're working on behind the scenes, where we're going to be working more closely with the AAT and supporting bookkeepers in practice as well. So we'll get to that a bit later as well. First of all, though, thanks everyone for being here. Thanks everyone who's joining live. I wondered maybe what we could do is just start with a little intro into what everybody does. So Jonathan, we've had lots of conversations. I wonder if you can start by telling us a little bit about your role at the AAT and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for having us on the podcast. It's brilliant. It's brilliant to be here. So my role at AAT is basically all about membership. So I'm product manager for membership, and essentially what that involves is ultimately making sure that our 50,000 professional members, which are made up of accountants and bookkeepers, all get the value out of being a member. So ensuring that everything we offer them in terms of products, services, and that overall proposition is as relevant and compelling as it possibly can be.
Amazing, thank you. And Phoebe, what's your role?
So I'm a senior customer operations advisor with AAT. So I primarily deal with our licensed members, so members like Libby. So that's right from the start of, when you apply to be a licensed member with AAT, right through to people who are renewing each year, helping people get their applications over the line, and then just supporting with any queries that they may have during their lifetime with AAT, and helping them renew each year and just giving them any support for anything that they might need from us.
Lovely, thank you. And I think you'll probably have lots of questions from people who are watching today, and feel free to ask questions if you've got any, because we always love to make these really interactive sessions. Libby, so Libby is a close friend of the Six Figure Bookkeeper. We always bump into Libby at events, and she's been really supportive of everything that we do. And she's also one of our ambassadors, so she kind of gives us like feedback from what's happening on the ground, being in practice, so that we can do the best that we do as well here at the Six Figure Bookkeeper. Libby, maybe you could tell us a little bit about your journey to building your practice and how the AAT has supported you and been part of that.
How long have you got, Zoe? Well, it has very much been a journey for me. So I'm quite open and honest about what I've been through. So just to give you a bit of background info then, I had a very good full-time job where I was an accounts assistant, thrown in at the deep end, had 3 months to pick up everything with quite a large company before the group accountant was on maternity leave. So I actually covered 2 lots of maternity leave for her, and it was a really good job. I was really happy. I learned loads. It was a stretch, but it was great. And then I was with them for 7 years, and my family had to relocate. At that point, I was a mum of 2 very small children, and I was a carer for my dad, who had dementia, and my mum's disabled. So I had quite a lot on my plate anyway, helping to care for them. And so moved, didn't know anybody, had lived in the same area for my entire life. So I felt quite isolated. I'd got no career. I'd got a house that needed a massive renovation, which I pretty much did on my own. I've got no income, got no formal accountancy qualifications, and I think my confidence and my self-belief absolutely plummeted. I thought my career was over. I managed to, I did get some interviews, but I was being told all the time, you've got too much experience, you'll be bored. Or other jobs that I was looking to apply for, I'd got the experience, but I didn't have the formal accountancy qualifications. So then 2010, just before my dad passed away, my husband suggested that I take a degree. It took me a while to come around to the idea, but I went to an open evening at my local college, and I was all ready to start this new journey. I managed to pluck up the courage to go, and they told me that the course wasn't going ahead because there wasn't enough interest. So they told me to speak to the AAT that were at the same event, but there wasn't any funding available and I couldn't afford it. So it was kind of back to the drawing board, and my hubby suggested that I look at the Open University. Well, I was able to get funding with them, but of course my confidence was still low, and I didn't for 1 second believe that I was clever enough to get a degree. And I wasn't convinced that I had the motivation that I needed to self-study either. It's been a long journey since then, and to keep things a bit in context, I started my first module in, I think it was about September 2010, and my dad died in October 2010. And the first module that I'd started was called an Introduction to Accounting. It was a really basic one. It was worth 10 points. I'd get my books out, I'd put my books away, I'd get my books out, I'd put them away. I just could not get started on it, and I felt really daunted by the whole thing. And then I was away with my family at Christmas, just for a few days away. And while I was away, I realised I'd got 10 days when I got back to finish the module, or I would fail that module and I'd probably quit, and then that would be it. And when I got back, I don't know what happened. I found the motivation. I got stuck into it. I completed it in 10 days and I passed, which was huge and was a really big motivator. Anyway, I carried on with the degree, which I would like to say I did eventually pass, and I got a 2-1, which I'm very proud of, but I never thought I'd managed to do it. But anyway, 2 years into the degree, I had a phone call from a young girl at a recruitment agency. And she asked me what I'd been up to. And I told her about my dad. I told her about the degree. I told her how hard it was to juggle life and caring with studying and renovating a property, which I was still doing. And she wasn't interested, not at all. She told me everybody has a degree these days, and that's not what employers were interested in. And they were looking for accountancy qualifications like the AAT, like ACCA, like CIMA. And it completely floored me, completely. In one sentence, she'd managed to make me feel as if I'd just wasted 2 years of my life. And it was horrible. And I spoke to one of my Open University lecturers, and she reassured me that education is never wasted, and she encouraged me to continue my journey, and I'm very glad I did, because it really was worth every bit of blood, sweat and tears, definitely. But I think I knew deep down that if I wanted to carry on with my career, that I really needed an accountancy qualification. So I went back to looking at all of them again, but I felt daunted by ACCA and CIMA, and I didn't think I was capable of studying those at the same time as I was taking my degree, and there was no funding available either. So obviously, because I wasn't working, money was still an issue at that point. But the AAT had got funding available through the Adult Learner Loan, and that was it. That was the moment that I thought, right, I can do this. I can get the funding. I can go to college. I can manage to do the AAT at the same time as I do my degree. So I applied for the funding, and then I started my AAT at my local college. And when I look back, it was such a great investment, because what that gave me was much more practical, hands-on experience of bookkeeping and accountancy. And what I really loved as well was the face-to-face classes. I loved learning, and I loved supporting the other students there as well whenever I possibly could. And I got just as much support from them as well. So I've ended up staying friends with some of them, which is just really lovely. I just wouldn't be without them, really. And then when I was taking level 4, my tutor that I got on very well with suggested that I would make a great tutor. And I thought she was winding me up, really, because I'd always sat behind a desk, not stood in front of people being myself. So I just thought she was absolutely mad. And anyway, she found a job at my local college, which is Cirencester College, and said, why don't you apply? And to cut a long story short, I applied. Had to teach some second year A-level students how to do the payback period. And I had a panel interview, and an hour after that, I had a phone call offering me a job teaching at college, and I taught there for nearly 2 years altogether. It probably wasn't what I wanted to do long term. I loved it. I really enjoyed doing it. It's really rewarding. It's hard work. It's very different, but I wouldn't change what I did. It was fantastic. But so since then, I've gone back to working in finance and sitting behind a desk, and eventually just decided that the flexibility that I needed to care for the rest of my family just wasn't available in most jobs, and that was what made me decide to set up my own practice. That, of course, comes with another whole set of problems, because I'd never run a business before and I'd never worked in practice before, so I didn't really know where to start. The AAT were great. I could get my license through them. You know, there was support, but they don't teach you how to run a business, which was obviously where I found you two. And it's been the best thing I've ever done. But on the advice of an AAT friend who had told me several years before to do it, and I hadn't, I then went to a branch event, and I wish I'd done that earlier. Somebody overheard a conversation I was having and offered me a part-time job in his practice. It was definitely an eye-opener. There are vast differences between working in industry and practice. I really liked it, but still, it was really good experience and I learned a lot, but I still wanted to set up my own business. And I think also with running my own business, it's given me the opportunity to try things that I wouldn't have been able to. If I'd had a normal job, I wouldn't have been able to do the things that I've been able to do. So I've constantly, and I'm still doing it, pushed myself out of my comfort zone. I've joined my local committee, which has given me the opportunity to network, to make new friends, and to attend loads of free CPD events. Obviously, one of the big things that I've done over the last year was become a trustee for the AAT. I had the phone call to say that I'd been successful on my 50th birthday last year, which was about the best 50th birthday present I had. I've been to loads of accountancy shows. I've met the most remarkable network of people, well, friends, through six-figure bookkeepers, and I love them dearly, and I'm utterly grateful for them every day of my life. And now with the AAT and being a trustee, I've got the opportunity to give back and support the AAT, but also the accounting and bookkeeping industry through my experience. I think apart from the funding that was available with the AAT, I didn't find the qualification as daunting as I think I would have done with some of the chartered accountancy qualifications. Plus, you get exemptions if you want to carry on studying to a higher level. So you've got the credibility, you've got the qualification. You don't have to wait until you've finished ACCA or CIMA or whichever accountancy body you choose to be an accountant. You already are an accountant. So then you've got the exemptions probably from the first level of studying. So you get a bit of a head start on that. So I've really got some credibility from the AAT. And it's a well-respected qualification. It's a recognised one at that. And I found studying relatively easy to fit in around my other commitments. And if you choose the right training provider, the support can be invaluable, and believe me, you will need it.
Oh, Libby, thank you so much for sharing that. It's really lovely to hear your story and just hear about that journey you've been on, because there'll be people who are listening to this now who can resonate with different parts of that, with like how, you know, the pressure to choose the right qualification for you, feeling a little bit daunted by some of the professional bodies, and actually, is this going to help me to do the thing I want to do? And then those pivots that we've all taken in our careers and the different things we've explored. And thank you so much for telling us all about that. And I think we're all sat here thinking, oh, you know, go Libby. And I love that you talk about the friendships that you've made as well, because that's a really important part. You know, you want to be doing something that you love with people that you love. So you are living that, and I love it. Jonathan and Phoebe, there are lots of things that Libby's said which have just got me thinking about, like, how do you see this on the other side from the AAT? So can you tell me a little bit about what journey someone would go on if they wanted to become a bookkeeper in practice or an accountant? And I think this is also something where sometimes we don't understand. Joe and I have sort of spoken about this. When you're at AAT qualified, do you call yourself a bookkeeper or an accounting technician? Do you call yourself an accountant? When does that change? And what journey should they expect to go on with the training and exams through to getting a practice license? What's actually involved?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to kick this one off, and Phoebe do add in. So I mean, I suppose back to basics on sort of like membership and licenses and that journey. So we offer a bookkeeping membership for those that complete their studies up to level 3. So once you've completed level 3, you're then eligible to apply for AAT bookkeeping membership, which then essentially says that you're a qualified bookkeeper, and you can get the designation after your name of AATQB, so AAT qualified bookkeeper. And this has really been a growing audience for us over the last 5 years or so since we introduced it, and I think that really as well reflects the demand for bookkeeping services more generally. That's growing and is expected to grow over the next 5 years or so, notwithstanding what happens with making tax digital and everything like that. So you can take the qualification, and at level 3 you can apply to become a member and get AATQB after your name. Whilst you have that, and you can be working as a bookkeeper, you may also wish to study beyond that and do level 4 with AAT. And then once you complete level 4, as Libby has done, then you can apply for what we call full membership, where you get the designation member of AAT after your name, which is MAAT, MAAT. I suppose the important thing to note is that you need either one of those memberships in order then to start setting up on your own, to offer your own accountancy or bookkeeping services to the public. So if you have got AATQB membership, then you will be eligible to go through that application process to run your own small bookkeeping practice. And we license up to about 18 different services that you could offer within your practice, from VAT, tax, payroll, etc. And bookkeeping will cover some of those service areas. If you've got the MAAT membership at level 4, then you can then apply to either have offer bookkeeping services, or the additional accountancy services as well. But you need one of those 2 professional memberships in order then to start going through the application process, in which there are other things that you will have to demonstrate through the application process, a few other bits and pieces, and some experience, practice experience as well. But essentially, that is the journey that somebody would go through. Phoebe, do you want to just touch upon in a bit more detail some of that, those additional areas on the application?
Yes. So I suppose, as John said, if you are looking to become a bookkeeper, you would have level 3 AATQB membership, and it's the same form, the same application form. Bookkeepers can offer up to 5 services. So that's value-added tax, financial accounts and accounts preparation for sole traders and partnerships, payroll, computerized accountancy systems, and bookkeeping. And then obviously the accounting services go up to kind of, there's a full 18 services. In addition, they can also offer the bookkeeping services in addition. So the application form, we've actually made, as I was saying to Libby last week, some kind of big changes to the application form, kind of based on feedback we had from existing members and people who'd looked at the application form. So we've tried to make it as kind of simple, as straightforward as possible. I suppose the key area that I think a lot of people probably are wondering about and asking about is work experience. So we used to have sections for anyone who has maybe gone through the form, and as Libby has gone through, where we would say, please tell us your work experience for this area, please, put your dates down, your company down, etc. So based on feedback, we've actually now come up with, so under each services, so under, payroll, for example, we've kind of 4 or 5 points of essential work experience that we'd expect to see, and it's now a tick box. So that experience, can be gained, if you've worked as an employee, but also, as I was saying to Libby, I know maybe there's some confusion about the work experience. If you're someone who's worked in an accounts department, within a non-accounting firm, that counts as experience. If you've ran payroll for a company, that's experience. So we're just looking, we've set these kind of 4 or 5 points for each service, and as long as you say that you're comfortable and confident that that you have that experience and you can tick that box, that's what we're looking to see. And that was just based on feedback that people were saying, they maybe were finding it hard to articulate the work experience they'd had. They would say they knew how to do payroll, but maybe they weren't exactly sure, how to write it to make sure that it was something that we were looking for. So we've tried to, make that kind of as simple as possible for people who are applying. So I would say, with the work experience, please don't think you've had to work in necessarily in an accounting firm or a bookkeeping firm. If you have that experience, through any type of firm, and if you're not sure, please, you can give us an email or a call. We can talk you through it as well. So, yeah.
I think that's kind of a really good key message, is that, I suppose, when you're considering starting up your own practice, it can obviously be very daunting, as Libby's mentioned. And we do have a Be Your Own Boss guide on the website, which is quite extensive, which appreciate that then might make it seem even more daunting, but it's certainly got all the relevant steps there. And we are continuing to look at the application process, and it's always a balance. Obviously, we need certain information. We've got looking at the AAT brand and protecting the AAT brand, ensuring that the licenses we give out, we've got all the information to make that decision. But as Phoebe said, we are always open to a call and to discuss it in more detail. So don't ever think that or if you get stuck at the application stage or whatever, you just think, oh, it can't be done. Please do give us a call to chat through, because sometimes it isn't always as black and white as what it may seem. So I think that's kind of a key message to get across. And yeah, if you're listening and at the stage of your journey where you are considering starting a practice, then do have a look out for that Be Your Own Boss guide, which gives all the detail about what you might need to look at, when is the right time to start thinking about it. I saw on the Facebook community yesterday a couple of questions around studying level 3 and thinking about starting your own practice. When should I do this? When should I actually register a company name and things like that? So all of that stuff is covered in that guidance. So
it sounds like AAT have been on a bit of a journey and are growing with the times, because my experience with AAT through my career has been that it's been a place to become part qualified on the way to being like an employee in an accountancy practice. You know, as a trainee, you went and did AAT. And my journey with AAT has been a bit strange because I actually already had a practice license. Not with AAT, I had a practice license, but I really wanted the qualification. So I decided to do the qualification just after my third child was born. But do you know what, Libby? I know what you mean, because what it meant was going to a classroom and getting hot coffee, being with other people and leaving the 3 children at home. And it was my escapism. And I absolutely loved studying the qualification. And I know I remember the person, I actually came on as an apprentice, an over 25's apprentice. And she looked at me, she was like, I was sitting there heavily pregnant signing the documents. And she was like, are you sure you want to do this? I was like, hot coffee, learning about accountancy, out of the house. Yes, I want to do this. And so I got my level 4 qualification in 2014. But it's such an amazing, but back then, like you say, this is kind of a new thing, the whole qualified bookkeeper. And when we first had our conversations, John, we was all a bit confused. So we really wanted to explain that this is a new thing, and you can get a practice license at level 3 with the AAT. And I think it's so exciting. And I love the fact you've got this whole area about being your own boss and everything like that, because it sounds like AAT has realized it's not just for your employed future accountants that are doing it on their way to their, chartered. Is this just been something that the community have been telling you, or do you think this is partly a bit of COVID, a bit of like the digital cloud era? It seems like it's changed a lot.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Predominantly, I mean, our membership audience space has always been fairly split, to be honest. It used to be pretty much 30 practice, industry, public sector, and then 10% on charity, not for profit. That's sort of shifted slightly, but certainly around 35% now work in practice. And I mentioned that bookkeeping was a growing audience for us, and members running their own practice is a growing audience for us as well. So 2 areas really showing growth and demand. And absolutely, I think COVID probably had an influence on that. People changing behavior, thinking about their careers, thinking about their jobs, and as well the value of bookkeeping and accountants increased a bit, because they were the 4th emergency service, weren't they, during that time. So maybe that's had an impact as well. But AAT has been on a journey, certainly for the last couple of years, and it's exciting times ahead. We've got people like Libby on the council, and she's been involved in helping to develop our new strategy, which we launched a couple of months ago, which is all about securing future relevance. It's our strategy towards 2030. And it's really sort of, when you look at the backbone of our sort of mission and why we exist, and a lot of it is really akin to what Libby was saying. And what we want to do is ensure that as many people as possible can experience the opportunities in a finance related career, and giving that opportunity to as many people as possible, that might come from all different backgrounds, all different stages in their career, whether that's leaving college, university, or career changes. And our new business strategy really focuses on shaping that future for bookkeepers and accountants, and ensuring that we are equipping that community of 50,000 with the real world skills for today's businesses. So really trying to pull that out, and then it's available online for anybody that wants to download a copy of the strategy. And when you get more into the detail, it talks about 3 core themes of ensuring relevancy, increasing professional standards, and building responsible business. But I guess most importantly, that community of 50,000 sits really at the heart of everything we do, and we are there to support them at whatever stage of the journey they're on, whether they are considering starting a career in finance, whether they're progressing through one of our qualifications, whether they're then jumping over to become a fully qualified professional member, if they're then going to start their own practice, if they're then giving something back like Libby's doing and they're joining council or they're chairing a local branch, or they then become president. So at every stage, to help them really thrive in their career and get to where they want to be, you know. So we've got that new strategy, which is really exciting. And then within that is you know, some of the focus areas around what we're trying to do within membership and bookkeepers as well. So, you know, we really recognize the need that to serve our membership types in different ways. So bookkeepers might need something different to accountants, and then you can chop that up even further, what somebody needs sectorially or at a different stage in their career. So we really recognize that, and we have been doing a lot of research and insight recently and chatting to bookkeepers about how we can develop that value and improve things going forward. And Zoe, you mentioned earlier about the partnership, and that's obviously one of the immediate things we're doing. So we've been chatting over the last few months about how we can really bring the bookkeeping community more prominence and bring more value in the skills that they've got. And we have similar ambitions, and so we thought, why don't we work together for the benefit of all? So it's really exciting to kind of, I guess, more formally announce today that, you know, we have a partnership and we will be working together a lot more closely going forward to deliver products, services, and support to as many bookkeepers as we can. So
yeah, we're really excited about that as well, and I think, and yeah, we're very aligned. Whenever we're talking, we're like, that's exactly what we think. So I think it's gonna be really helpful to everyone in this community. And I'm seeing like questions being asked, just thinking about, we've been talking about how having your own business gives you freedom and choices, and how perhaps that's come about more because of the last couple of years. You know, we've all reassessed what do we want from life, what do we want from work, what do we want it to look like. And I'd love to come back, if it's okay, I want to come back to the experience part of things, because this comes up a lot in our group, and we really want to help people through this, because there is this real barrier to being able to start a business, get the practice license, because you don't necessarily have that experience. So there are a lot of people in our community who are career changers, or who are quietly listening to this podcast. Maybe you're one of those people and you are listening along and you're at work and you're thinking, I want to go and do my own thing, but I don't know how to get the experience that's relevant to be able to tick those boxes. You know, I haven't got that. I'm not even in the right industry. I'm thinking of, you know, we've got like Louise, who was a nurse, who became a bookkeeper. We've got Dave, who has a driving school, who became a bookkeeper. So there are lots of people that we know well who have changed careers. So I'm thinking, for those people, or for people who maybe started the AAT qualifications years and years ago, and I'm guessing the syllabus has changed since, and they maybe can't find any of the details or anything, and they're thinking, oh, you know, I wish I'd finished that, but I just had one exam to do and I just never quite got across the line with that. What would you say to those people who, first of all, how can you get experience if you can't get a job right now because it's a difficult market, or your circumstances mean you're not able to be employed? I don't know. Is there a way into getting a practice license where you can volunteer, or, you know, what generally do you say to people in that situation? And also, what should you do if you started training a long time ago and you thought, I just don't even know where to start? Like, is it all out of date? Do I have to start again? That might be for you, Phoebe.
Yes. So I'll address the I started my exams, you know, several years ago, kind of part first. So the first thing I would always say, it probably sound like a broken record, is it is always usually best to give us a call or an email, because it may be that your exams, you know, that we can still accept them, or, you know, that we can look at, you know, rather than saying, well, you'd have to do level 4 or level 3, depending what you want to do, all over again. You know, there may be some kind of, you know, that you may need to do one more assessment, etc. Or we can, you know, we can see if we can still accept if they are still within a time frame. So obviously it is on a kind of case by case basis. I would always say, you know, pick up the phone, give us a call. We are, as John has kind of said, that's one big thing with our strategy, is that we are looking into, because we do get those kind of queries from people saying, I started, life changed for me, different circumstances, I'm ready to come back, how can I? So we are, having conversations about how, we're always trying to see how we can open it up rather than, close it off, while, maintaining that balance, while making sure that, the AAT name and the designated letters as well for existing members, really stand for something, and people can be, sure that people with AAT designated letters are, top quality. So, it may be the case that we may have to say, well, actually, you would need to do level 3 or level 4 again, depending on where you are. There's also, I think as well, and there's, if you've show notes, maybe at the end we can drop some of the links in. There's kind of a wealth of information on our website where we say, it may be that you've had a membership with another body that we'll accept, if you want to, start studying or, apply for a license with us. So it's, or that you could potentially have done a degree from a partner university and may not even realize. So we do have alternative routes that you don't just have had to come through AAT qualifications. So I would always say, yeah, give us an email. We might say, can you send us some transcripts, etc. But we will always try to look and see if there's a path, that we can help you on to join us.
Oh, that is music to my ears. It's the like, just, there is a human at the end of the line. Just call and have a chat, and I think that's what we need to know a lot of the time, isn't it? Like, it's okay.
And I think it's sorry, Phoebe. I think it's what we're always trying to strive for is to remove barriers rather than put them in the way. And obviously, there's always a balance and judgments to be made, but that's what we're always trying to strive for. And yeah, as mentioned earlier, we are always at the end of the phone. So if, as Phoebe said, if there is a route through, we will certainly do our best to try and find it.
I think as well, adding to what John's just said, that from my perspective, and not being an employee of the AAT, I'm constantly trying to get feedback through as well. And what I'm really delighted to be able to say is that they're listening, and that they really are listening, and they really want to do the best that they can for us. And of course, it's all about upholding those professional standards. That's really important. I don't want my license, I don't just want it handed to me because it doesn't mean anything. I'm proud of my license. I'm proud of the work that I've put in behind it, and I want to be upheld to those high standards. But I don't want it to be so difficult that people are put off. So it's about getting that information back to say, look, hang on, the same thing's coming up time and time again. Is there something that we can look at, to help and to improve the whole process? And what I love is that they really are listening, and that makes such a difference. I'm not gonna bother to help them if they're not listening to me, but they are, and that's what I love. And I'm not saying that because I'm paid, because I'm not. I'm saying it because it's true, and that for me just means everything.
And I think that's so true, Libby, because I think all of us in our community as well, we don't expect anything to be perfect. We expect that someone listens and tries their best and lets us know if that's why it can't happen, or we're working towards this. And I know that we've spoken to new software companies that are like fledgling and trying, and we actually like being part of the journey. We like giving feedback. It's kind of part of our nature. So I don't think anyone's expecting anything to be perfect. And listening to the story that you've all explained sounds like it's AAT's on its own journey, and the landscape is changing, and you're trying to change along with it, which is really interesting. So Libby earlier spoke about the fact that there was some funding available when she was studying, and I know I got some funding as part of that, being an older apprentice. I managed to get mine partly. They were very excited because I was over 25. So I wish I was just over 25 now. Anyway, but it really did help. Do we know of anything that's available at the moment? If someone's thinking, just thinking about this at the beginning, thinking of their studying journey, how would they find out about what's available?
Well, we've got we can signpost to some information on the website. I mean, funding has reduced, you know, over the last 10 years or so. Certainly, that's the case. But there are still pockets available. So perhaps we can send through some links after this that we can get out to, because it's it can be quite complex to talk all the way through, but yeah, we can certainly give some information to help with that.
Perfect. And we can add those to the show notes.
There's the apprenticeship schemes are still available, so that's always worth looking into, and that can be for someone that you already employ of any age, and you can still pay them what you're paying them. There are some hoops to jump through, but would definitely be one way to fund it.
Well, that's
Maybe
interesting.
Just to add, if you do become a member with us, there's also reduced fee options available for members, and for our licensed members, you know, if your income threshold is below a certain level, or if you're also, you know, if you're a member and you're studying as well at the same time. So it doesn't stop, you know, the funding doesn't stop once you're a member. So there's, you know, there is, you know, reduced fee options. We obviously also have the option to pay your fees by direct debit, you know, in up to 4 monthly installments to kind of help, so it's not coming all out as a lump sum as well. So they're just kind of 2 things to add as well.
Good, sensible ways of approaching this, really. Yeah, love it. There's a comment from Carly who says, I'm AAT and ACCA qualified and chose to practice through the AAT, as the support when I was setting up was fantastic. And I think, you know, from hearing Libby's story as well, she's just had amazing support with building her business. And I just wonder whether you can let us know a bit about, once people are in practice with the AAT, how are they supported? Like, can they expect to be part of, do they get invited along to sessions and trainings, and how do they stay in touch with you generally?
Yeah, so there's sorry, John, I don't know, did you want to go ahead first?
You go.
We obviously have quite a number of benefits once people become members, so such as CPD events, branch events. I suppose it's like anything as well, you get out what you give in. So as Libby has said, joining a branch was brilliant for her, and I would definitely recommend, because it is in your area, so you know, you can meet people who are on the same journey, who live near you, and it's obviously great to bounce things off. We have technical helplines, so therefore there's kind of technical queries that you might come across, you know, in your day to day. How do I treat this? How do I do that? There's also a knowledge hub, so that's our professional standards team write a lot of articles in there, so things about anti-money laundering, compliance, etc., you know, client checklists, those kind of things. We have also obviously our professional standards team are there to answer if you have any kind of those ethical queries that you might want to run by them, or a client has said something to you and you're not sure and you kind of just want, you know, a bit of support there. There's obviously the AAT discussion forums, which I always say to people to use, because obviously they're full of accountants and bookkeepers, and often it may be the case that someone, you know, if you have a query or an issue, someone has probably experienced it as well at some point. It's probably rare you're the only person who's ever kind of come across it, so just someone else can jump in and say, actually, I had that, here's the answer. So, and our new our relaunched lifelong learning portal in June 22 is where you can now upload all your CPD, and we've got a lot of pre-populated content that you can use for CPD, so videos and articles. So they're just some of the things, and maybe John probably might want to add on if I've forgotten anything. Or
no, I mean that was great, and yeah, as Phoebe said, I mean there's lots of, you know, we've got AML supervision and checklists and support with AML, client engagement letters, mentioned the advice lines, preferential rates on PII, that kind of thing. But you know, as well as loads of practice management resources and e-learning and things like that. But one of the things that we always get back from members that are running their own practice, and most of AAT members who run their own practice are sole practitioners as well. Probably about 65% or so, is around pricing of services and how do I grow my practice. And sometimes that is just in terms of, you know, the services I offer and clients, and some, not necessarily always I want to start employing people, but that is obviously a natural next step. So practice growth and pricing of services always come back as the top two things that members need support with, because it is daunting, right? And to go from each stage to the next stage to the next stage to the next stage. One of the things we're doing this year is we're putting on a much more broader CPD program, and two of the areas we're intended to tackle in more detail are those two things. So we've got a new course called Pricing Your Services and Practice Growth. They're two separate courses. They do dovetail together, obviously, but they are two separate courses. So really to try and hone in on that area a bit more, because it obviously is challenging. And I think as well, from what a lot of members who run their own practice have said, it's the confidence side of things. It's, you know, if all being well, you can go to a course and they say to up your fees by 100%, because people by and large will still pay, but do you have the confidence to do that? And so all of that, you know, is taken into account with it. So we're really trying to focus on, you know, ensuring that that program is right. And I mentioned the broader CPD program. So yeah, you know, keep your eyes peeled in the next 3 or 4 weeks for an explosion of CPD from AAT. And if you happen to be at Accountex, we will be there as well, and we can walk you through some of that sort of enhanced program there. Or if you just want to come and have a chat to us at Accountex, we will be there as well and answer any questions. So yeah, I certainly think, I mean, going back to your, you know, we do offer quite a bit of support. Obviously there's always stuff we can do more, do better, improve. And, you know, as you were saying, Joe, I think, you know, no one's perfect. We will strive to be, but the most important thing is that we're listening to our members, because they're all valuable to us. So
love it. Oh, thank you. That's fantastic. I'm going to ask one quick question before I wrap up. I've just seen Kate post a question here. Kate is she's relocated back to Northern Ireland, and she's finding most of the events are based on the mainland. And I think there are people, I think generally, like, we find there's the like certain parts of the country where things always happen, and it's really difficult to move away from that. Are there regional hubs and groups?
There are, but we just don't have any in Northern Ireland at the moment. So something we have.
Kate might be
Kate, set up your own branch.
Yeah. So we have branch network across the UK. We've got about 42 active branches at the moment. We haven't had anything in Northern Ireland for 10 years or so, just purely because of the membership base over there. But that's not to say something can't be set up if there is demand over there and there is the will to run it over there with some volunteer help and things like that. So absolutely, the conversation's open. You know,
yeah, we have members in Northern Ireland, and it's something we're aware of as well. You know, it's we've got to get away from London a lot of the time, haven't we? So thank you, John. Thanks, Phoebe. Thanks, Libby. Thank you so much, everyone who's been here and asked questions as well. It's been really interesting chat, and really nice to hear about these developments and how much you're listening. And it, you know, maybe if in the past you've thought, oh, you know, I've worked so hard for this qualification and now I don't know what to do, hopefully you're feeling like you've got some of the answers, and you know, you can pick up the phone and speak to the AAT. We will share lots of links that John and Phoebe are going to share with us in the show notes. So if you're listening on the podcast or watching this on YouTube, you'll be able to see all of those links as well. Thank you everyone so much, and look forward to catching up with you soon and sharing more about what we're doing with the AAT. We'll see you next week for another episode of the Bookkeepers podcast. Take care. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.